Market research is a process of planning, collecting, and analyzing data relevant to a marketing decision.
When organizations enter into strategic planning, they conduct different types of research and analysis. They might conduct both secondary and primary research. They will consider using qualitative and or quantitative research and different survey types. They would check the quality of their research data by critically applying the terms validity and reliability.
Market research improves the quality of decision-making, helps trace problems, helps focus on importance of keeping customers, assists in understanding the marketplace and its trends, also helps gauge the perceived value of goods and services and customer service at large.
This cafe is located in a large city, close to a busy high street. It is called the French Cafe, and it specializes in serving high-quality cakes and desserts. The French Cafe is experiencing increasing competition from both existing competitors and new cafes opening up all around the area. Motivated by his curiosity to find out more about the competitors, the owner of the French Cafe has decided to do some research. So what kind of information could the French Cafe collect? They could access business databases to find details about each competitor, such as their financial results. And some commercial industry databases open for more detailed company information at a fee. To compare with their own internal situation, they could gather information from their own financial accounts. They could visit the competitors' websites, social media sites, and perform online searches to collect information about the different competitors' online presence and communication style. They could also access TripAdvisor or similar platforms to find out how customers review the competitors. We call this type of research secondary or desk research.
Every business that's been in operation for a while tends to collect a lot of data over time. This could include customer details or frequency of purchase or items being purchased, as well as information about geographic. So for example, where do our customers come from? Along with customer-based information, a business is also likely to have a lot of data in regards to supplies, as in what kind of products are they buying on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. As such, by looking at internal databases, they can really analyze this vast, rich source of data to try and interpret or find potential trends in their analysis. External databases are interesting as this would be research conducted by someone else that we could potentially buy for a fee or even have access to for free. For example, data collected by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. A business's financial accounts would be an example of an internal data or internal database. So for example, one could look at sales performances over a given period of time and compare it with, say, previous month's sales or even previous year, which can also help us to identify potential trends in the market that may be impacted by seasonality. And lastly, competitors' websites. Now this one's really interesting as most businesses would have a website or an Instagram account or a Facebook account. And businesses will try to proactively engage with potential customers. Now, for our company, we could just look at somebody else's website to see potentially what seasonal dishes they're bringing out or what their new products that they're working on that is being developed and potentially do the same. For example, there might be a trend in the market towards going vegan. And if we find more and more of our competitors are having more vegan dishes available, then we should perhaps looking at doing the same. Secondary data is incredibly useful as it allows us to focus in for future research purposes, as well as identify gaps in what we currently have. Now remember, secondary data, this is not new data, this is old data. However, it does give us a lot of insights if we analyze the data well and therefore get information.
So let us take a look at the characteristics of secondary data. Secondary data has not been created or published for the benefit of the French café's competitor analysis. It has originally been created for a general purpose, aimed at a variety of people or businesses. Secondary data is already out there, just waiting to be found and explored. The benefits of secondary data is that it is usually relatively quick, easy, and low cost to obtain. However, the disadvantage of secondary data is that the information is not targeted directly at French Cake's specific information needs. Now let us imagine that French Cakes would like to obtain some information which is targeted specifically at their own information needs. They could design a suitable questionnaire and interview customers. They could invite customers for a focus group interview. They could set up specific goals in their Google Analytics to track on their website how users interact with their online booking feature, and they could track social media interactions. They could also carry out other observations of customers' behavior, both on their website and in their cafe. This type of research is called primary or field research.
Primary data is fresh. Primary data is new. Primary data is very heavily influenced by questions that maybe the secondary data just couldn't solve, or by questions that no one has quite looked into yet. So in order to solve these particular questions, we could do a questionnaire. A questionnaire is when an organization creates a set of questions that we could give to our potential target audience. Now, this could be to our customers, it could be to our internal staff, it could be to our suppliers, or it could just be to the general public, depending on what type of data we're looking for or what kind of questions we're looking to get answered. Focus groups are super interesting because the focus group, you get a group of people together and they should represent a segment. So it's not a group of random people completely. It's a group of people who are from a similar demographic who we are trying to reach. For example, your focus group might consist of predominantly male or predominantly female, or perhaps a particular segment like double income, no kids. And in a focus group, you'll ask them a series of questions and you'll gauge their response, and then you'll analyze this response later. Google Analytics is a very rich source of data as well. And it's primary because it's being generated on a live basis. So for example, let's say our organization decides to launch a new ad campaign. This is where Google Analytics helps us out by giving us insights into exactly how we did. And the last one's observation. Observations are really interesting. It's one of the oldest forms of research since time basically began. Observation is where our organization will stand back and just observe. For example, customers walk in. What do customers look at? Where do they go? Is there a particular pattern that we can see? For example, do most customers walk in and head straight towards a particular spot in our shop? If so, let's observe it. Observation can also be used in other formats as well. For example, on websites. Let's say we've decided to redevelop our website. Now, how do we know if this website is better or worse? Now, we can ask people. However, people may not give us the best response because there's a lot of things they might do, which is very subconscious. So instead of asking people, we can observe, what did they click on? What are they looking at? What kind of things are they spending more time on? And what kind of things are they completely ignoring? So the same principles can be used in many different formats and gives us a really rich insight into human behavior. It is important to note that primary research is time-consuming, it can be quite expensive, and it can also require quite a bit of effort to process, as in to analyze, to convert into information. So we're going to use it sparingly and use it to fill in any gaps that secondary research left us with.
So let us take a look at what characterizes primary data. Primary data is generated specifically for us and for our specific purpose. Primary data is not already out there in the form that we require it. We could argue that the online behavioral data already exists, but French Cakes is now setting up specific filters to track and show an exact behavior. The benefit of primary data is clearly that it is targeted specifically to our individual needs. However, the disadvantage is that it is relatively time-consuming, complex to carry out, and therefore also relatively costly. So what is best, secondary or primary research? In our example, French cakes would have to decide whether or not the secondary information they could gather would be sufficient to make decisions upon, or whether they are in need of more targeted information. A need for targeted information would create the need for conducting primary research. In that case, French cakes would have to consider the different kinds of information they could collect via primary research, and whether or not they have both the time, the money, the people and the skills required to carry out relevant primary research. No two cases are the same, but if time, money and competencies allow, a combination of secondary research and carefully designed primary research is often the optimal solution.
As marketers, we rely on quality information to make decisions. In business in general, the more data we have, the better we can potentially analyze, and the better the information we get, which allows us to make better decisions and hence serve our customers' needs and wants better, as well as be more competitive in the market overall.
As marketers, we would usually recommend conducting the secondary research first and primary second. This is to make sure we spend our resources wisely.